The dust-swept town of Promise Creek was already whispering about Olivia Blackwood before she even stepped off the stagecoach, her reputation having somehow traveled faster than the horses that brought her across the unforgiving terrain of the Montana Territory in the spring of 1872. She stood on the weathered platform, clutching a worn leather satchel, her eyes scanning the unfamiliar landscape with a mixture of hope and trepidation, unaware that the whispers would soon grow into cruel judgments that would follow her like shadows through the streets of her new home. Chapter 1. The arrival. Olivia pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders as the cool Montana breeze whispered through the newly budding cottonwood trees. At 28 years old, she had the posture of someone far older, her back straight but her shoulders weighed down by years of disappointment and loss. Her auburn hair was neatly pinned beneath a modest bonnet, and her green eyes, once bright with dreams, now held a cautious reservation that came from learning life's hardest lessons. Promise Creek had seemed like the answer to her prayers when she'd read the advertisement in the newspaper back in Boston. A town seeking a schoolteacher, offering a fresh start in the expanding West. After burying her husband James 18 months ago, taken by the same influenza that had swept through their neighborhood and claimed so many, Olivia had found herself alone, with no children to comfort her and no family to return to. "Miss, you looking for someone?" A boy of about 12 approached her, cap in hand. "I'm Mrs. Blackwood," she corrected gently. "I'm the new schoolteacher. I was told someone would meet me." The boy nodded eagerly. "That'd be Mayor Collins. He asked me to fetch you if you came on today's coach. Said to bring you to the boarding house." He reached for her trunk. "I'm Charlie, by the way, Charlie Wilkins." "Thank you, Charlie." Olivia smiled, her first genuine one in what felt like ages. "Lead the way." Charlie chatted enthusiastically as they walked down Promise Creek's main street. The town was larger than Olivia had expected, with a general store, saloon, bank, and church all situated along the dusty thoroughfare. Men in wide-brimmed hats nodded politely as they passed, and women paused their conversations to study the newcomer with curious eyes. The boarding house sat at the edge of town, a two-story structure with a wide porch and fresh white paint. As they approached, a plump woman with graying hair stepped out, wiping her hands on her apron. "You must be Mrs. Blackwood," she called out. "I'm Martha Jennings. I run this establishment." Her smile was warm but assessing. "Mayor Collins asked me to get you settled, said he'll come by this evening to discuss your duties at the school." "That's very kind of you, Mrs. Jennings." Olivia climbed the steps, suddenly aware of how exhausted she felt after days of travel. "It's just Miss Jennings," the woman corrected. "Never did find a man worth the trouble." She laughed, a hearty sound that seemed to fill the porch. "Now let's get you inside. You look about ready to drop." The room Martha showed her to was small but clean, with a narrow bed, washstand, and a window overlooking the distant mountains. Olivia sank onto the bed, grateful for the simple comfort after weeks of travel. "Supper's at 6, Martha informed her before leaving. "Rest up till then." Alone at last, Olivia unpacked her few belongings. From the bottom of her trunk, she pulled out a small, framed daguerreotype James on their wedding day, his smile forever preserved in the metallic image. Next to it was a tiny pair of knitted booties, never worn. She traced her finger over them, a familiar ache blooming in her chest. 3 pregnancies, 3 losses. The last one had nearly taken her as well, the doctor warning that she would likely never carry a child to term. She tucked the painful mementos away and moved to the window. Promise Creek spread out before her, the setting sun casting long shadows across the dusty street. Beyond the town lay vast stretches of rugged prairie and distant mountains. This land felt ancient and untamed compared to Boston's cobblestone streets and brick buildings. "A fresh start," she whispered to herself. "That's all I need." Little did she know that fresh starts came with their own challenges, especially for a widow with no children in a frontier town where a woman's worth was often measured by the size of her family. Supper at Miss Jennings' boarding house was a simple but hearty affair. Besides Olivia, there were 5 other boarders. Mr. Peterson, the elderly bank clerk, the Thompson sisters, who worked at the general store, Dr. Williams, a young physician who had recently arrived from Chicago, and Mr. Granger, a traveling salesman who was passing through. Conversation flowed easily, with everyone curious about the newcomer. Olivia answered their questions politely but revealed little about her past, focusing instead on her excitement about teaching at the local school. "The children here are a wild bunch," Mr. Peterson warned, his wrinkled face creasing into a smile. "Nothing like your well-mannered Eastern youngsters, I'd wager." "I'm looking forward to the challenge," Olivia replied diplomatically. After the meal, Mayor Collins arrived as promised. He was a portly man with an impressive mustache and an air of self-importance that Olivia found slightly off-putting. "Mrs. Blackwood," he greeted her, shaking her hand vigorously. "Welcome to Promise Creek. I trust your journey was comfortable." "As comfortable as one could hope for, Mayor Collins." He led her to the parlor, where they sat in stiff back chairs near the fireplace. "Now, about the school, we have approximately 30 children of varying ages. The previous teacher, Miss Reynolds, left us rather abruptly to marry a rancher over in Helena." He gave a disapproving sniff. "The school has been without a proper teacher for nearly 3 months. "I see, and the curriculum, basic reading, writing, arithmetic, Bible studies, of course. The town council has provided funds for new primers and slates. We expect you to maintain discipline and prepare the children to be productive citizens." Olivia nodded, feeling more confident. This was familiar territory. "When might I see the schoolhouse?" "Tomorrow morning." "The school is located at the edge of town. 8 o'clock sharp, if you please. The children will arrive at 9. Their conversation was interrupted by Martha, who brought in coffee and slices of apple pie. As they ate, Mayor Collins studied Olivia with curious eyes. "Your letter mentioned you were widowed recently. My condolences." "Thank you. It's been 18 months now." "No children?" The blunt question caught her off guard. "No," she said simply, not wishing to elaborate. The mayor seemed to be calculating something. "Well, Promise Creek is growing. Many fine, unmarried men in these parts. A schoolteacher holds a respected position in the community." Olivia set down her fork. "I haven't come here seeking a husband, Mayor Collins. I came to teach." His eyebrows rose slightly. Of course. "Just making conversation." He checked his pocket watch. "I should be going. Mrs. Collins will be wondering where I've gotten to." After the mayor left, Olivia retired to her room, feeling both excited and apprehensive about the day ahead. Sleep came fitfully, her dreams filled with faceless children calling for a mother she could never be. The morning dawned clear and bright, the spring air carrying the scent of sage and pine. Olivia dressed carefully in her best navy blue dress, her hair neatly arranged, determined to make a good impression on her first day. Martha provided a hearty breakfast of eggs, bacon, and fresh bread. "You'll need your strength for those youngsters," she said with a wink. The schoolhouse was a simple one-room building with a small bell tower. Inside, rows of wooden desks faced a larger desk and blackboard at the front. Shelves lined one wall, holding a meager collection of books and supplies. The room smelled of chalk dust and pine wood. Mayor Collins introduced her to Mrs. Porter, a stern-faced woman who served as the head of the school board. "Mrs. Porter has 3 children in the school," the mayor explained. "She takes a special interest in their education." Mrs. Porter looked Olivia up and down with a critical eye. "We expect our children to learn proper values along with their letters and numbers, Mrs. Blackwood." "Of course," Olivia agreed, already sensing that Mrs. Porter might be a difficult parent to please. By 9 o'clock, the schoolhouse was filled with children ranging from 6 to 16 years of age. They stared at her with curious, and in some cases wary, expressions as she introduced herself. "Good morning. I am Mrs. Blackwood, your new teacher. I've come all the way from Boston to teach in Promise Creek because I've heard what fine, intelligent children live here." A few of the younger ones giggled, while the older boys looked skeptical. "Today, we'll start by learning a bit about each other. When I call your name, please stand and tell me one thing you enjoy doing." The morning progressed smoothly, with Olivia quickly assessing the various skill levels among her pupils. Charlie Wilkins, she discovered, was particularly bright, though he struggled with his penmanship. Two of Mrs. Porter's children were in attendance: Elizabeth, a serious 12-year-old, and William, a mischievous 9-year-old who seemed determined to test his new teacher's patience. By the time the lunch hour arrived, Olivia felt cautiously optimistic. The children were indeed less formally educated than those she had taught in Boston, but they were eager to learn and refreshingly direct in their questions. As the children ate their packed lunches outside, Olivia remained at her desk, reviewing her afternoon lessons. She was startled by a knock at the door. A tall man with broad shoulders filled the doorway, his face shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat. "Mrs. Blackwood." His voice was deep with a slight drawl. "Yes," she stood, smoothing her skirt. He stepped inside, removing his hat to reveal sun-streaked brown hair and the most startlingly blue eyes she had ever seen. His face was tanned and weathered, with a strong jaw dusted with stubble. "Isaac Morgan," he introduced himself. "I've got a niece who will be joining your class tomorrow. Cora." "She's 9. I see. Is she new to the area?" "She's been living with me at my ranch for about 6 months since her parents died. Thought it was time she got some proper schooling." He glanced around the room, his expression unreadable. "She's a bit shy, might need some extra patience." Something in his tone, a genuine concern beneath the gruff exterior, touched Olivia. "I understand, Mr. Morgan. I'll make sure she feels welcome." He nodded, seeming satisfied. "Appreciate it." He turned to leave, then paused. "Town's talking about you already." Olivia blinked in surprise. "Talking about me? Whatever for?" A hint of a smile touched his lips. "Folks don't have much to do around here except talk. Don't let it bother you none." With that cryptic remark, he replaced his hat and strode out, his spurs jingling softly with each step. Olivia watched him go, wondering what exactly the town was saying about her. She didn't have long to ponder this, as the children began filing back in for the afternoon session. The rest of the day passed quickly, and by the time the last child had left, Olivia was exhausted but satisfied. She had made a promising start, though she knew it would take time to earn the complete trust of both the children and their parents. As she gathered her things to leave, she noticed Mrs. Porter waiting outside with Elizabeth and William. The woman's expression was tight as she approached Olivia. "Mrs. Blackwood, a word if you please." "Of course, Mrs. Porter, how can I help you?" "I noticed you spent quite some time with the Wilkins boy today." Olivia nodded. "Charlie is very bright. He has a natural aptitude for mathematics, perhaps, but the Wilkins family is not the sort of influence I want for my children. His father drinks and his mother takes in laundry." She said this last part as if it were scandalous. Olivia kept her expression neutral. "In the classroom, all children receive equal attention and opportunity, Mrs. Porter. I judge them by their efforts and abilities, not by their parents' circumstances." Mrs. Porter's lips thinned. "I see. Well, I hope you understand that certain standards must be maintained. By the way, I heard Isaac Morgan paid you a visit. I would advise caution there." "Caution, Mr. Morgan seemed perfectly civil. He was merely informing me about his niece who will be joining the class." "That man is a loner. Lives way out on that ranch of his with hardly any contact with decent folk. Some say he had trouble with the law back east." She lowered her voice. "Not the sort a respectable widow should associate with." Irritation flared in Olivia. "Thank you for your concern, Mrs. Porter, but I'm quite capable of judging character for myself." The woman drew back slightly, clearly not used to being contradicted. "Very well, come along, children." She herded Elizabeth and William away, leaving Olivia with the distinct impression that she had just made an enemy. Walking back to the boarding house, Olivia mulled over the encounter. It seemed Promise Creek had its share of gossips and rigid social hierarchies, just like Boston. She had hoped for something different in the West, but perhaps human nature remained the same regardless of geography. That evening at supper, the other boarders eagerly asked about her first day. Olivia shared amusing anecdotes about the children, carefully avoiding any mention of Mrs. Porter's warning or Isaac Morgan's visit. After the meal, as Olivia sat in the parlor marking papers, Martha joined her with a cup of tea. "So I hear Isaac Morgan came to see you today," the older woman said casually. Olivia looked up in surprise. News travels fast in Promise Creek. Martha chuckled. Small town, everyone knows everyone's business by supper time. She sipped her tea. Isaac keeps to himself mostly, got that big ranch about 5 miles out of town, raises the finest horses in the territory. Mrs. Porter seemed to think he was some sort of outlaw. Agatha Porter thinks anyone who doesn't attend her tea parties is suspicious. Martha waved a dismissive hand. Isaac had some trouble years back, but nothing like what the gossips say. Lost his brother and sister-in-law in a wagon accident back in Missouri. Took in their daughter without hesitation, even though he's never had children of his own. Olivia felt a twinge of sympathy. His niece is joining my class tomorrow. Little Cora, sweet child but quiet as a mouse since the accident. It'll do her good to be around other children. Martha studied Olivia over the rim of her teacup, and it might do Isaac good to have more reason to come to town. Olivia chose to ignore the hint in Martha's voice. I should finish these papers. The children have much to catch up on after months without a teacher. Martha smiled knowingly but said nothing more, leaving Olivia to her work and her thoughts, which kept drifting to a pair of intense blue eyes and a deep voice with just the hint of a drawl. Chapter 2. Whispers and Judgment. The next morning, Olivia arrived at the schoolhouse early, eager to prepare for her second day of teaching. As she arranged books and wrote the day's lessons on the blackboard, the door creaked open. She turned to find Isaac Morgan standing there with a small girl partially hidden behind him. "Good morning, Mr. Morgan," Olivia greeted him with a smile. "Mrs. Blackwood." He nodded, then gently urged the child forward. "This is my niece, Cora." Cora Morgan was small for her age, with dark brown hair braided neatly down her back and eyes the same striking blue as her uncle's. She regarded Olivia warily, clutching a slate and primer to her chest. Olivia knelt to the child's level. "Hello, Cora. I'm very pleased to meet you. We're going to have a wonderful time learning together." Cora glanced up at her uncle, who gave her an encouraging nod. "Hello," she whispered, so softly Olivia barely heard it. "Cora's had some schooling before," Isaac explained. "Her mother taught her letters and numbers. She's smart, just shy," Olivia finished for him. "That's perfectly all right. Many children are shy at first." She stood and addressed Cora again. "Would you like to choose your desk? You can have any empty one you like." After a moment's hesitation, Cora pointed to a desk in the middle row, not too far from the front, but not in the very first row either. "Excellent choice," Olivia approved. "Why don't you put your things there while I speak with your uncle?" As Cora moved to the desk, Olivia turned to Isaac. "She'll be fine, Mr. Morgan. Children are remarkably adaptable." He ran a hand through his hair, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "She hasn't been around many folks since coming to live with me. The ranch is pretty isolated." "I understand. I'll keep a special eye on her today." Olivia hesitated, then added, "Children who have experienced loss often find comfort in routine and learning. It gives them something to focus on besides their grief." Isaac studied her face, seeming to search for something. "Sounds like you speak from experience." Before Olivia could respond, the door burst open and several children tumbled in, their voices loud in the previously quiet room. Isaac straightened, his expression closing off. "I'll be back at 3 to pick her up," he said, then crossed to Cora, bending to murmur something in her ear that made her nod solemnly. With a final glance at Olivia, he departed, leaving her with an odd feeling of disappointment. The school day proceeded smoothly, with Cora gradually becoming less tense as the morning wore on. By lunchtime, she was quietly answering questions when called upon, though she still kept to herself during breaks. Olivia was just about to call the children back in from lunch when she noticed William Porter and 2 other boys surrounding Cora, who sat alone under a tree. "Is it true your mama and papa got squashed flat by a wagon?" William was saying loudly. "That's what my mama says. She says your uncle is strange and you're probably strange too." Cora's face had gone pale, her small hands clenched around her lunch pail. "William Porter," Olivia called sharply, striding toward them. "That is quite enough," the boys scattered at her approach. Olivia knelt beside Cora, whose eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Are you all right?" she asked gently. Cora nodded stiffly, her jaw set in a way that reminded Olivia distinctly of Isaac. William was being unkind. I'll be speaking with him about his behavior. Olivia hesitated, then added, It's hard being the new child, isn't it? I'm new here too, you know. Perhaps we can help each other. A flicker of interest showed in Cora's eyes. You're new too? Yes, I just arrived from Boston 2 days ago. Everything here is different from what I'm used to. Uncle Isaac says different isn't bad, just different. Cora's voice was small but clear. Olivia smiled. Your uncle is a wise man. Now, shall we go back inside? I believe we're going to learn about maps this afternoon. The rest of the day passed without incident, though Olivia made sure to have a stern word with William about his behavior. By dismissal time, Cora seemed more settled, even exchanging a few words with Charlie Wilkins, who had offered to share his colored pencils during the map exercise. True to his word, Isaac arrived precisely at 3 o'clock. He stood awkwardly by the door as the other children filed out, many casting curious glances his way. It occurred to Olivia that few of them had likely seen the reclusive rancher up close before. When the room had emptied except for Cora, who was carefully gathering her things, Olivia approached him. Cora did very well today, she reported. She's quite advanced in her reading. Pride flickered across his face. Her mother was particular about that, read to her every night. I did need to address an incident at lunch. Some boys were teasing her about her parents. Isaac's expression darkened. It's been handled, Olivia assured him quickly. But I thought you should know, children can be thoughtless sometimes. Or they repeat what they hear at home, he said grimly. Perhaps, but Cora handled it with remarkable composure. His gaze softened as it fell on his niece. She's stronger than she looks. Something in his tone made Olivia wonder if he was speaking from personal experience as well. Before she could respond, Cora joined them, looking up at her uncle with a small but genuine smile. Ready to go, little one? He asked, his voice gentler than Olivia had heard it before. Cora nodded, then turned to Olivia. Goodbye, Mrs. Blackwood. Thank you for the map lesson. You're very welcome, Cora. I'll see you tomorrow. As they left, Olivia noticed several women gathered outside, ostensibly waiting for their children but clearly watching Isaac and Cora with undisguised curiosity. Among them was Mrs. Porter, whose disapproving frown deepened as she saw Isaac emerge from the schoolhouse. Olivia began tidying the classroom, trying to ignore the knot of unease forming in her stomach. It was clear that both Isaac and Cora were outsiders in Promise Creek, much as she herself was. But while she might eventually find acceptance as the town's teacher, she suspected their isolation was more deeply entrenched. That evening, as Olivia sat in the boarding house parlor reading, Dr. Williams joined her, taking the chair opposite. How are you finding Promise Creek, Mrs. Blackwood? He asked pleasantly. It's quite different from Boston, but the children are eager to learn, he nodded. Small towns can be challenging for newcomers. Everyone knows everyone's business, and outsiders are viewed with suspicion until proven otherwise. I've noticed, Olivia admitted. Particularly regarding certain residents. Ah, you've encountered our local gossip mill already, he chuckled. Let me guess, Isaac Morgan. Olivia closed her book. His niece joined my class today. He seems devoted to her welfare, yet Mrs. Porter acted as if his very presence was scandalous. Dr. Williams sighed. Isaac had a difficult past, came here about 5 years ago, bought that ranch outside town, and mostly keeps to himself. There was talk that he'd been in some trouble back east, a fight gone bad, some said. Others claimed he'd been engaged to a woman who died tragically. He shrugged. No one really knows the truth, and Isaac has never bothered to correct the rumors. And the child, Cora, his brother's daughter, tragic accident took both parents about 6 months ago. Isaac went to Missouri and brought her back with him. It caused quite a stir, a bachelor raising a young girl alone on a remote ranch. How utterly ridiculous, Olivia said with more heat than she'd intended. He's her uncle. Who better to care for her? Dr. Williams studied her with interest. Not everyone sees it that way. Some feel a child, especially a girl, needs a mother's influence. And I suppose these same people have offered to help, Olivia asked skeptically. Hardly. Most keep their distance from the Morgan ranch. He leaned forward slightly. I should warn you, Mrs. Blackwood. In a town like this, showing too much interest in Isaac Morgan might affect how people view you. Fair or not, that's the reality. I'm merely concerned for one of my students, Olivia replied stiffly. Of course. His smile was kind but knowing. Just thought you should be aware of the social dynamics at play. After Dr. Williams excused himself, Olivia remained in the parlor, turning their conversation over in her mind. It seemed unfair that a man would be judged so harshly for taking responsibility for his orphaned niece. What kind of community valued gossip over compassion? Yet she knew Dr. Williams was right about one thing: her position as the town's teacher was precarious. She needed the goodwill of the parents to be effective. Getting entangled in local prejudices would only complicate matters. Still, as she prepared for bed that night, Olivia couldn't help but think of Cora's solemn face and Isaac's protective stance. There was a story there, one deeper than town gossip could capture, and despite her best intentions, she found herself curious to learn more. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. Olivia grew more comfortable with her teaching duties, and her students began to show real progress. Cora attended regularly, gradually becoming more confident in class, though she remained reserved during breaks and social times. Isaac appeared promptly at 3 each day to collect his niece, exchanging brief, polite words with Olivia, but never lingering. She noticed that he timed his arrivals to avoid most of the other parents, clearly aware of the stares and whispers his presence provoked. One Wednesday afternoon in late April, Olivia was surprised to see a woman waiting with Isaac instead of him coming alone. As the children filed out, Cora ran to them both, her face lighting up. "Mrs. Blackwood," Isaac called, gesturing her over. "I'd like you to meet Rose Howard. She helps out at the ranch." Rose was a sturdy woman in her 50s with gray streaked hair and kind eyes. She extended a weathered hand to Olivia. "Pleased to meet you, Mrs. Blackwood. Cora speaks highly of you." "The pleasure is mine, Mrs. Howard. Cora is an excellent student." "It's Miss Howard, actually," Rose corrected with a smile. "Never did find a man worth giving up my independence for." Isaac cleared his throat. "Rose has been helping with Cora since she came to live with me, comes out to the ranch 3 times a week." Understanding dawned on Olivia. Isaac had hired a woman to help care for Cora, likely in part to quiet the whispers about a bachelor raising a young girl alone. It was a practical solution, and one that showed his concern for both Cora's welfare and her reputation. "Miss Howard is teaching me to bake," Cora volunteered, the most animated Olivia had seen her. "We made apple pie yesterday. Did you? That sounds wonderful." Olivia smiled at the child's enthusiasm. "Isaac mentioned you're from Boston," Rose said. "Must be quite an adjustment coming to a place like Promise Creek." "It is different," Olivia acknowledged, "but there's much to appreciate here." "The town's lucky to have you," Rose said firmly. The last teacher was more interested in finding a husband than teaching the children. Isaac shifted uncomfortably. "We should head back. Got those new foals to check on." Rose gave Olivia a knowing look. "He's always in a hurry to get back to those horses. I swear he cares more about them than people sometimes." "Horses are simpler," Isaac muttered. "Well, it was lovely to meet you, Miss Howard," Olivia said. "Perhaps you could send one of those apple pies to school with Cora sometime. I'm sure the children would enjoy it during lunch." Cora's eyes widened. "Could we, Uncle Isaac, for the whole class?" Something in the child's eager expression seemed to soften Isaac's reserve. "If you and Rose want to bake for 29 children, I won't stop you." 30, Cora corrected seriously. "Mrs. Blackwood would want pie too." The unexpected moment of levity brought a genuine smile to Isaac's face, transforming his features in a way that made Olivia's breath catch. He should smile more often, she thought, then immediately chided herself for the inappropriate observation. "We'll see you tomorrow, Mrs. Blackwood," Isaac said, touching the brim of his hat in farewell. As they walked away, Olivia noticed Mrs. Porter watching from across the street, her expression sour. The woman had been increasingly cold toward Olivia since the incident with William, barely acknowledging her at church or in town. Olivia had tried to mend fences, but Mrs. Porter seemed determined to find fault with the new teacher. Later that week, Olivia learned why when Martha shared the latest town gossip over breakfast. Agatha Porter has been telling anyone who'll listen that you're showing favoritism to certain students, Martha reported, passing the biscuits, particularly the Morgan girl and the Wilkins boy. Olivia set down her coffee cup with more force than intended. That's absurd. I treat all my students equally. Of course you do, dear, but Agatha's husband is on the school board and she likes having influence. Your predecessor was quite accommodating to her suggestions. I'm not here to play politics, Martha. I'm here to teach. Martha patted her hand sympathetically. Just be careful. Agatha can make trouble if she sets her mind to it. The warning proved prescient. The following Monday, Mayor Collins paid an unexpected visit to the schoolhouse during the lunch hour. Mrs. Blackwood, he greeted her, removing his hat. I hope I'm not interrupting. Not at all, Mayor. The children are at lunch. What can I do for you? He cleared his throat uncomfortably. Some concerns have been raised about your teaching methods. My teaching methods, Olivia repeated, genuinely confused. Yes, well. It seems some parents feel you're not maintaining proper discipline, and there have been questions about your attention to certain students over others. Olivia felt heat rise in her cheeks. Mayor Collins, I assure you that I maintain appropriate discipline while respecting each child's dignity. As for giving special attention, if a student requires additional help, I provide it. That's my job. The mayor shifted his weight from one foot to the other. Of course, it's just that. Well, there's also been talk about your association with Isaac Morgan. Association, Mr. Morgan brings his niece to school and collects her afterward. We exchange perhaps a dozen words daily about her progress, hardly an association. Yes, but you understand appearances can be important in a small community. Anger flared within Olivia. I understand that gossip seems to be the primary pastime in Promise Creek, Mayor Collins, but I will not allow it to interfere with my duties as a teacher. The mayor's face reddened. Now, Mrs. Blackwood, there's no need to be defensive. I'm merely conveying concerns that have been raised. By Mrs. Porter, I assume. His expression confirmed her suspicion. Several parents have spoken to me, I see. Olivia took a deep breath, trying to remain professional. Mayor Collins, I was hired to educate the children of this town. That is what I intend to do to the best of my ability. If the school board has specific complaints about my teaching methods, I'm happy to address them. But I will not change how I treat a child based on town gossip about their family. The mayor studied her for a long moment. You have spirit, Mrs. Blackwood, I'll give you that. He replaced his hat. I'll inform the board that we've discussed the matter. After he left, Olivia stood at the window, watching the children play in the schoolyard. Her hands trembled slightly with suppressed anger. She had come to Promise Creek seeking a new beginning, not to be caught in the crossfire of small-town politics and prejudices. For a moment, she considered whether she had made a terrible mistake in coming west. Perhaps Boston, for all its painful memories, would have been safer. There, at least, she understood the social rules and expectations. But as she watched Cora Morgan cautiously join a game of jacks with two other girls, Olivia's resolve strengthened. This was where she was needed, and if that meant occasionally ruffling feathers, so be it. The confrontation with Mayor Collins had one unexpected consequence. That afternoon, as Isaac arrived to collect Cora, Olivia made a spontaneous decision. Mr. Morgan, might I have a word with you? He looked surprised but nodded. Cora, wait by the horses, he instructed his niece, who obediently trotted off. When they were alone, Olivia spoke quietly but directly. I feel I should inform you that there has been some talk in town about my interactions with Cora and with you. Isaac's expression hardened. What kind of talk? Nothing specific, just insinuations that I'm showing favoritism to Cora and that our conversations are somehow inappropriate. He swore under his breath, then immediately apologized. Pardon my language, Mrs. Blackwood, this town and its endless gossip. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Has this caused trouble for you? Nothing I can't handle, she assured him, but I wanted you to be aware in case you hear rumors. He studied her face intently. Why tell me this? Most folks would just avoid me to save their reputation. The question caught her off guard. Why had she told him? Because it isn't right, she said finally. You're doing your best for Cora, and she deserves a good education without being penalized for other people's prejudices. Something shifted in his expression, surprise, perhaps, or a dawning respect. Thank you for being straight with me, Mrs. Blackwood. Not many would. Olivia, she said impulsively. My name is Olivia. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. Olivia, he repeated, the name sounding different in his deep voice. Thank you. As he turned to leave, he added, for what it's worth, Cora talks about you all the time, says you make learning feel like an adventure, not a chore. The simple comment warmed her more than it should have. She's a bright child, you should be proud. I am. With a final nod, he joined Cora by the horses, lifting her easily into the saddle before mounting his own horse. Olivia watched them ride away, aware that she had just crossed some invisible line in Promise Creek's social hierarchy. But strangely, she didn't regret it. Chapter 3. The invitation may brought warm days and spectacular wildflower blooms to the Montana prairie. Olivia incorporated nature walks into her lessons, taking the children to explore the meadows near the schoolhouse, teaching them to identify local plants and wildlife. During these outings, she noticed Cora's transformation. The previously quiet girl became animated when discussing the natural world, displaying knowledge that surprised her classmates. Uncle Isaac taught me, she would explain, a note of pride in her voice whenever she identified a bird call or plant that stumped the others. One Friday afternoon, after a particularly successful nature lesson, Olivia was erasing the blackboard when she heard a now familiar step in the doorway. Mr. Morgan, she greeted Isaac without turning around, right on time as usual. How did you know it was me? There was a hint of amusement in his voice. She glanced over her shoulder with a smile. Your spurs, they have a distinctive sound. He looked momentarily taken aback, as if surprised she would notice such a detail. Where's Cora? She and Charlie Wilkins are collecting the nature journals. They should be back momentarily. Olivia set down the eraser and turned to face him fully. She did exceptionally well today. Her knowledge of local plants is quite impressive. Her father was interested in botany, Isaac explained, had journals full of plant drawings. Cora's been going through them lately. That explains it. She identified a dozen wildflowers that even I couldn't name. A comfortable silence fell between them. Over the past weeks, their brief exchanges had grown slightly less formal, though Isaac remained reserved. Mrs. Blackwood Olivia, he began, seeming uncharacteristically uncertain. I was wondering. That is, Cora and I were thinking. The door burst open as Cora and Charlie entered, arms full of small notebooks. Uncle Isaac, Cora exclaimed, her face lighting up. Did you tell her yet? Isaac cleared his throat. I was about to. Tell me what? Olivia asked, curious about what could make the normally stoic man appear almost nervous. Cora bounced on her toes with excitement. We want to invite you to the ranch for Sunday dinner. Rose is making chicken and dumplings, and I'm going to bake a cake, and Uncle Isaac said you could see the new foals if you want to. Olivia blinked in surprise, looking from Cora's eager face to Isaac's more guarded one. It was Cora's idea, he said quickly, but it would be nice if you could come, as a thank you for being kind to her. The invitation touched her deeply. I would be delighted, she said sincerely. Thank you both for thinking of me, Cora beamed. It's going to be the best Sunday dinner ever. Charlie, who had been quietly observing this exchange, piped up. Mrs. Blackwood, I should go. My ma will be wondering where I am. Of course, Charlie. Thank you for your help today. After the boy left, Isaac seemed to recover his composure. I can come fetch you around noon on Sunday if that suits. That would be perfect. The ranch is about 5 miles out of town, he added. Not a difficult ride, but not something you'd want to walk. Olivia hesitated. I should warn you, I haven't been on a horse in years. Not since I was a girl, really. I'll bring the wagon, he promised. More comfortable anyway. As they finalized the arrangements, Olivia was aware of a lightness in her chest that had been absent for too long. It was just a Sunday dinner, she reminded herself. A kind gesture from a student and her guardian. Nothing more. Yet as she prepared for bed that night, she found herself wondering what Isaac Morgan's ranch might be like, and why the prospect of seeing it made her feel so unexpectedly nervous. Saturday passed in a flurry of errands and lesson planning. Olivia purchased a small box of candies from the general store as a gift for Cora, deliberately ignoring the curious looks from Mrs. Thompson as she wrapped the package. That evening at the boarding house, she mentioned casually that she would be missing Sunday dinner the following day. "Oh, where will you be dining?" Martha asked, her expression innocently curious in a way that instantly made Olivia suspicious. "I've been invited to the Morgan Ranch," she replied evenly. "Cora wanted to thank me for helping her adjust to school." A hush fell over the dining table. Dr. Williams raised an eyebrow while Mr. Peterson nearly choked on his coffee. "The Morgan Ranch," Mr. Peterson repeated. "My word. No one from town ever gets invited out there." "I hear he's got the finest horse stock in the territory," Dr. Williams commented. "Been meaning to ask him about a new riding horse myself." Martha was watching Olivia with shrewd eyes. "It'll be nice for you to get out of town for a change. And for that child to have some female company besides old Rose Howard." Olivia felt a flash of defensiveness on Rose's behalf. "Miss Howard seems like a lovely woman, actually." "Oh, she is," Martha agreed readily. "Salt of the earth, that one, been on her own since her husband died in the war. Takes no nonsense from anyone, not even Isaac Morgan, from what I hear." The conversation gradually moved to other topics, but Olivia caught several speculative glances throughout the evening. It seemed her Sunday plans had just become the newest fodder for the Promise Creek gossip mill. Sunday dawned clear and warm, with a gentle breeze that carried the scent of sage and wildflowers. Olivia dressed with particular care, choosing a cornflower blue dress that James had always said brought out the green in her eyes. She pinned her hair in a slightly looser style than usual, allowing a few auburn curls to frame her face. As she studied her reflection, Olivia was struck by how different she looked from the pale, grief-stricken widow who had arrived in Promise Creek just 2 months ago. There was color in her cheeks now, and her eyes seemed brighter somehow. "It's just the Montana air," she told herself firmly. "Nothing more." At precisely noon, the sound of wagon wheels outside announced Isaac's arrival. Olivia descended the stairs to find Martha already at the door, chatting amiably with him. "Finest blacksmith in Helena if you're looking to get those wagon wheels seen to," Martha was saying. "Appreciate the recommendation, Miss Jennings," Isaac replied politely, his hat in his hands. He glanced up as Olivia approached, and something flickered in his eyes. "Mrs. Blackwood, you look very nice." "Thank you, Mr. Morgan." She was oddly pleased by his awkward compliment. "And thank you for coming to collect me." Martha watched this exchange with barely concealed interest. "You two had better get going if you want to make it to the ranch by dinner time. And Isaac, you make sure to have her back at a decent hour. We lock up at 9 sharp." "Yes, madam," he said with such grave seriousness that Olivia had to suppress a smile. He sounded like one of her schoolboys being admonished. The wagon was clean and well maintained, with a fresh layer of straw in the back and a comfortable seat. Isaac helped Olivia up, his hand warm and calloused against hers. The brief contact sent an unexpected flutter through her stomach. As they pulled away from the boarding house, Olivia was acutely aware of curtains twitching in nearby windows. By supper time, all of Promise Creek would know that the schoolteacher had gone to the Morgan Ranch. "I'm afraid we've given the town something new to talk about," she said lightly. Isaac's mouth quirked in what might have been the beginning of a smile. They'd find something to talk about anyway, might as well give them something worth gossiping over. The journey to the ranch took them through rolling grasslands dotted with wildflowers and the occasional stand of aspen trees. As they left the town behind, Isaac seemed to relax slightly, his posture becoming less rigid. "How did you end up in Promise Creek?" Olivia asked, genuinely curious. "It seems an isolated choice for someone raising horses." He considered the question before answering. "Wanted somewhere quiet, somewhere I could build something of my own without," he trailed off, "without the weight of the past," she suggested quietly. He glanced at her, surprise evident in his expression. "Something like that, yes. I understand. It's why I came west as well. They fell into a companionable silence as the wagon crested a small hill. Below them stretched a verdant valley with a clear stream winding through it. Nestled against a backdrop of distant mountains was a collection of well-maintained buildings, a large two-story house, a sprawling barn, and several smaller outbuildings. Fenced pastures contained horses of various colors, their coats gleaming in the sunlight. "It's beautiful," Olivia breathed. "Home," Isaac said simply, but there was unmistakable pride in his voice. "Built most of it myself over the past 5 years. The main house was just a 2-room cabin when I bought the place." As they approached, Olivia could see Cora waiting on the wide front porch, bouncing with excitement. Rose stood beside her, wiping her hands on her apron. "They're here," Cora called out, racing down the steps as Isaac brought the wagon to a halt in the yard. Before Olivia could even begin to descend, Cora was at her side, practically vibrating with enthusiasm. "Did you see the horses? Do you like our house? Rose let me set the table with the good dishes, and I picked flowers for a centerpiece, and can I show you my room before dinner?" Isaac chuckled as he came around to help Olivia down. "Breathe, little one, Mrs. Blackwood just arrived." "Sorry," Cora said, not looking sorry at all. "I'm just excited. We never have visitors except Dr. Williams sometimes, and he only comes when someone's sick." "I'm honored to be invited," Olivia said warmly, accepting Isaac's hand as she stepped down from the wagon. "And I would love to see your room before dinner." Rose approached, her expression welcoming. "Glad you could join us, Mrs. Blackwood. Hope the ride wasn't too dusty." "Not at all, and please call me Olivia." "Olivia it is then. Come on inside. I've got lemonade cooling, and this child will burst if she doesn't get to show off her room soon." The interior of the Morgan home was a pleasant surprise. Olivia had expected a bachelor's sparse accommodations, but the house was comfortably furnished with solid, well-crafted pieces. The main room combined a sitting area with a dining space, centered around a large stone fireplace. Bookshelves lined one wall, filled with an impressive collection of volumes. "You have quite a library," Olivia commented, running her fingers along the spines. "Shakespeare, Dickens, Whitman." "My brother's books, mostly," Isaac explained. "He was the educated one, went to college back east." "Uncle Isaac reads to me every night," Cora volunteered. "He does all the different voices." A flush crept up Isaac's neck. "Why don't you show Mrs. Blackwood your room now, Cora?" The child eagerly led Olivia up a narrow staircase to the second floor. Cora's bedroom was small but charming, with a quilt-covered bed, a small desk, and shelves holding books and treasures. A rag doll sat propped against the pillow. "Uncle Isaac made me this desk," Cora said proudly. "And Rose helped me make the curtains. My room at home at my old home was bigger, but I like this one better." "It's lovely," Olivia said sincerely. "Very cozy." Cora's expression grew serious. "Uncle Isaac said you lost your husband, like I lost my mama and papa." The direct comment caught Olivia off guard. "Yes, I did, about 1.5 years ago. Does it still hurt? Inside, I mean." Olivia sat on the edge of the bed, considering how to answer truthfully without burdening the child. "It does sometimes. But not all the time, and not as sharply as it once did. It's like a scar. It's always there, but it doesn't hurt unless you press on it." Cora nodded solemnly. "That's how Uncle Isaac describes it too. He says it's okay to be sad sometimes, as long as we remember to be happy too." "Your uncle is very wise. He gets sad sometimes when he thinks I'm not looking," Cora confided, "especially when I do something that reminds him of my papa. They looked a lot alike 'cause they were brothers." Olivia's heart ached for both of them, this solemn child and the man who was doing his best to raise her despite his own grief. "I think," she said carefully, "that when we love someone, they become part of us. So even when they're gone, that part stays with us forever." Cora considered this, then smiled. "I like that idea." She grabbed Olivia's hand. "Come see the rest of the house." The tour continued, with Cora proudly showing off the kitchen. Rose let me help knead the bread dough, the small study that had been her father's books. Uncle Isaac keeps all his papers about the horses in here. And finally, the back porch, which offered a stunning view of the pastures and mountains beyond. Isaac was in one of the corrals, working with a spirited black horse that pranced and tossed its head as he spoke to it in low, soothing tones. His movements were fluid and confident, his focus absolute as he guided the animal in a circle. "He's gentling Midnight," Cora explained. "She's going to have a baby next spring, but she's nervous around people. Uncle Isaac says some horses are like people they need to learn to trust before they can be happy." Olivia watched as the horse gradually calmed under Isaac's patient handling. There was something mesmerizing about seeing this normally reserved man so completely in his element, his usual guardedness replaced by an almost tender authority. "Your uncle has a gift with horses," she observed. "Papa said he could talk to them in their own language." Cora sounded proud. "He's teaching me too, but he says I have to learn patience first." Rose appeared at the door. "Dinner's ready, you two. Cora, go wash your hands and fetch your uncle, please." As Cora dashed off, Rose joined Olivia on the porch. "That man," she said, nodding toward Isaac, "has more natural horse sense than anyone I've ever known. Could have made a fortune if he'd stayed back east with those fancy horse breeders." "Why didn't he?" Rose's expression grew guarded. "Not my story to tell. But I will say this: Isaac Morgan is a good man who's had more than his fair share of troubles. Folks in town don't know half of what he's been through." Before Olivia could respond, Cora returned with Isaac, who had removed his work gloves and hat and made an attempt to smooth his wind-blown hair. "Sorry to keep you waiting," he said. "Lost track of time with Midnight." "She's doing much better," Cora reported. "She took the apple right from Uncle Isaac's hand today." Dinner was served at the large oak table in the main room. The meal was simple but delicious: chicken and dumplings as promised, fresh bread, spring vegetables from Rose's garden, and a golden cake that Cora announced proudly she had made herself with just a little help from Rose. The conversation flowed more easily than Olivia had expected. Rose had a gift for storytelling and shared amusing anecdotes about her late husband's adventures as a fur trapper. Cora eagerly discussed school and her horse training progress. Even Isaac seemed more relaxed, offering occasional comments and actually smiling at Cora's enthusiastic descriptions. "Mrs. Blackwood is teaching us about the stars," Cora informed him. "Did you know that the North Star always stays in the same place? That's how people find their way home when they're lost." "Is that so?" Isaac glanced at Olivia. "Sounds like you're learning useful things." "I try to include practical knowledge alongside traditional subjects," Olivia explained. "Many of these children will remain in this region as adults. Understanding their environment seems as important as arithmetic and grammar." "Sensible approach," Rose approved. "Better than just memorizing facts about places they'll never see." After the meal, while Rose and Cora cleared the table, Isaac invited Olivia to see the horses. "If you're interested, that is," he added, suddenly seeming unsure. "I'd love to," she assured him. The spring air was warm as they walked toward the barn, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the yard. Inside, the barn was surprisingly clean and organized, with spacious stalls and good ventilation. "This is impressive," Olivia commented. "I've seen city stables that weren't this well maintained." "Horses deserve decent living conditions," Isaac said simply. "They give us their strength and loyalty. Least we can do is provide them with clean straw and fresh air." He led her to a stall where a chestnut mare stood protectively beside a wobbly-legged foal. The baby horse was a rich bay color with a white star on its forehead. "This is Copper and her colt, born just last week," Isaac explained, his voice softening. "First foal of the season." Olivia watched in delight as the foal nuzzled its mother, then turned curious eyes toward the visitors. "He's beautiful. What's his name?" "Haven't decided yet. Cora's been calling him Star for obvious reasons." Isaac reached out slowly, letting the mare sniff his hand before gently stroking her neck. "Cora has a way with them too, natural gift like her father. She speaks very highly of you," Olivia said. "It's clear she feels secure here despite everything she's been through." Isaac's expression grew serious. "I'm doing my best, not sure it's enough sometimes. A child needs more than just a roof and meals. She needs love and understanding, which you clearly provide." Olivia hesitated, then added softly, "Children are remarkably resilient when they feel safe and valued." "You sound like you know something about it." "I was a teacher in Boston before coming here. I've seen children overcome tremendous obstacles when given the chance." Isaac studied her face, seeming to sense there was more to her story, but he didn't press. Instead, he showed her the rest of the barn, introducing her to each horse with obvious pride. There was Lightning, a gray stallion with impressive bloodlines, Daisy, a gentle mare used for teaching children to ride, and Midnight, the nervous black mare he'd been working with earlier. "She was mistreated by her previous owner," he explained. "Takes time to rebuild trust once it's broken." "But you believe it's possible?" Olivia asked, watching as the mare cautiously approached the stall door with patience and consistency. "Yes." He offered Midnight an apple slice from his pocket. "Everyone deserves a second chance." Something in his tone made Olivia wonder if he was speaking from personal experience. Before she could consider this further, they heard Cora calling from outside. "Uncle Isaac, Mrs. Blackwood." "Rose made coffee, and I get to have my cake now." They returned to the house to find coffee and cake waiting on the porch, along with a spectacular view of the sunset painting the distant mountains in shades of gold and purple. As they sat enjoying the peaceful scene, Olivia felt a contentment she hadn't experienced in years. "Thank you for inviting me today," she said sincerely. "This has been lovely." "You're welcome anytime," Rose replied. "Does the heart good to have company occasionally?" Cora, who had been unusually quiet for the past few minutes, suddenly blurted out, "Uncle Isaac, can Mrs. Blackwood come for Sunday dinner every week?" Isaac nearly choked on his coffee. "Cora, that's not. Mrs. Blackwood has her own life in town. We can't expect her to ride all the way out here every Sunday." "But she said she liked it here," Cora persisted, "and you smile more when she's around, I noticed." The blunt observation created a moment of awkward silence. Olivia felt heat rise in her cheeks while Isaac looked mortified. Rose, bless her, stepped in smoothly. "Cora, why don't you go check on that nest of robins we found yesterday, see if the eggs have hatched yet?" Once Cora had reluctantly departed, Rose shook her head with a chuckle. "That child has no filter between her brain and her mouth. Gets that from her mother's side, I reckon." "I'm sorry," Isaac said to Olivia, still looking uncomfortable. "She doesn't always understand." "It's fine," Olivia assured him quickly. "Children say what they observe." It's actually refreshing compared to adults who say one thing while thinking another. This seemed to ease his discomfort slightly. "Still, I wouldn't want you to feel obligated in any way." "I don't," she said honestly. "I've enjoyed today immensely. And while weekly might be a bit much, I would be happy to visit again sometime." Something in his expression shifted relief, perhaps, or a cautious pleasure. "You'd be welcome." Rose stood, gathering the empty plates with a knowing smile. "I'll just take these inside. Seems like you two might have things to discuss." After she'd gone, a comfortable silence settled between Olivia and Isaac as they watched the last rays of sunlight fade from the mountains. "Can I ask you something?" Isaac finally said, his voice low. "Of course." "What brought you to Promise Creek, really?" He turned to look at her directly. "A woman with your education and background, there must have been better positions back east." Olivia considered how to answer. The full truth felt too raw, too personal to share. Yet something about this man, with his direct gaze and quiet intensity, made her want to be honest. "After my husband died," she began slowly, "Boston became suffocating. Every street, every room held memories, and the pity was unbearable." She took a deep breath. "We had been trying for children. 3 pregnancies, 3 losses. The last one nearly killed me. After James died, people looked at me differently, the childless widow, as if I had somehow failed at the most fundamental task of womanhood." She hadn't meant to reveal so much. The words had simply poured out, surprising her with their bitterness. Isaac was silent for a long moment. "People can be cruel without even realizing it," he said finally, "judging what they don't understand." "Yes," she swallowed the lump in her throat. "I came west to escape those judgments. To be defined by what I can do, not by what I couldn't have." "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "I think you're doing something more valuable than most." Teaching children, shaping their minds, that's a kind of parenthood too. His words touched something deep within her, a wound she had thought permanently raw suddenly feeling less painful. Before she could respond, Cora returned, breathless with excitement. "The eggs are hatching. Come see." The moment broken, they followed Cora to a nearby tree where, true to her word, tiny beaks were beginning to break through blue shells in a carefully constructed nest. As they watched new life emerge, Olivia was acutely aware of Isaac standing close beside her, his presence somehow both unsettling and comforting. Something had shifted between them today, a connection formed through shared confidences and mutual understanding. What that might mean, she wasn't yet ready to examine. Chapter 4. Whispers in the Wind. The Monday following Olivia's visit to the Morgan Ranch, she entered her classroom to find a small bouquet of wildflowers on her desk. No note accompanied them, but she knew immediately who they were from. The gesture touched her deeply, though she was careful to keep her expression neutral as students began filing in. Cora arrived with a bright smile and a knowing look at the flowers. "Uncle Isaac picked those himself," she whispered before taking her seat. "He said ladies like flowers, but he wasn't sure if you did." "They're lovely," Olivia replied softly. "Please thank him for me." The school day proceeded normally, though Olivia noticed several older girls whispering and glancing her way throughout the morning. By lunchtime, she discovered the reason when Elizabeth Porter approached her desk with a deceptively innocent expression. "Mrs. Blackwood, my mother says you went to visit the Morgan Ranch yesterday." Olivia kept her voice even. "Yes, I was invited for Sunday dinner." "Mother says it's inappropriate for an unmarried man to invite a widow to his home." The blunt statement, delivered in Elizabeth's prim voice, momentarily stunned Olivia. Before she could formulate a response, Charlie Wilkins spoke up from his desk. "That's stupid, Mrs. Blackwood is Cora's teacher, and Miss Howard was there too. My ma says Miss Howard is the most proper lady in the county." Elizabeth flushed. "No one asked you, Charlie Wilkins." "That's enough," Olivia said firmly. "Elizabeth, please remember that adult matters are not appropriate topics for classroom discussion. And Charlie, while I appreciate your defense, we don't use words like stupid in this classroom." Both children looked suitably chastened, but the incident left Olivia unsettled. If children were discussing her visit to the Morgan Ranch, the adults of Promise Creek must be having a field day with the gossip. Her suspicion was confirmed that afternoon when Mayor Collins paid another unexpected visit to the schoolhouse. This time, he wasn't alone. Mrs. Porter accompanied him, her thin lips set in a disapproving line. "Mrs. Blackwood," the mayor began uncomfortably after the children had been dismissed. "Mrs. Porter has raised some concerns about your conduct yesterday." Olivia straightened her spine. "My conduct?" "It has come to my attention," Mrs. Porter said, her voice dripping with false concern, "that you spent the entire day at Isaac Morgan's ranch, unchaperoned." "I was invited for Sunday dinner by Mr. Morgan's niece," Olivia replied evenly. "Miss Howard was present the entire time, as was Cora." "Rose Howard is Mr. Morgan's employee," Mrs. Porter sniffed. "Hardly a suitable chaperone, and a child doesn't count." "Mrs. Porter," Olivia said, struggling to maintain her composure, "I appreciate your concern for propriety, but I assure you nothing inappropriate occurred. It was simply a kind invitation from a student and her family. Isaac Morgan is not known for his sociability," Mayor Collins pointed out. "People are bound to talk when he suddenly invites the new schoolteacher to his home." "And what exactly are they saying, Mayor?" Olivia asked directly. He tugged at his collar. "Well, that is, some might suggest, an attachment is forming, based on a single dinner visit." Olivia couldn't keep the incredulity from her voice. "You were seen bringing flowers to school this morning," Mrs. Porter accused. "Flowers from him." Olivia took a deep breath. "Mrs. Porter, Mayor Collins, my personal friendships are my own affair, provided they don't interfere with my teaching duties. Has anyone complained about my performance in the classroom?" "Well, no," the mayor admitted reluctantly. "Then I fail to see how this is a matter for official concern." Mrs. Porter's face hardened. As a teacher, you are expected to uphold the highest moral standards. Associating with a man of questionable background sends the wrong message to impressionable children. Questionable background. Olivia repeated. Mr. Morgan is a successful rancher raising his orphaned niece. What exactly is questionable about that? There are rumors, Olivia interrupted, are not facts. And I would have thought, Mrs. Porter, that as a Christian woman, you might be more concerned with charity and kindness than with perpetuating malicious gossip. A tense silence followed this rebuke. Mayor Collins cleared his throat uncomfortably. Perhaps we've said enough on this matter for now, he suggested. Mrs. Blackwood, we simply ask that you be mindful of appearances. This is a small town, and the schoolteacher is held to a high standard. I am always mindful of my responsibilities, Olivia replied stiffly. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have papers to grade. After they left, Olivia sank into her chair, hands trembling with suppressed anger. The unfairness of it all stung deeply. In Boston, she had been pitied for her childlessness. Here in Promise Creek, she was being judged for showing kindness to a man who didn't fit the town's narrow expectations. For a moment, she considered packing her belongings and returning east, but the thought of abandoning her students, especially Cora, gave her pause. No, she wouldn't be driven away by small-minded gossip. That evening at the boarding house, Olivia sensed a shift in the atmosphere. Conversations dimmed when she entered a room, and even Martha seemed unusually reticent. Only Dr. Williams maintained his friendly manner, engaging her in discussion about a medical text he was reading. After dinner, he sought her out in the parlor. "Don't let them get to you," he said quietly, taking the chair opposite hers. "This town feeds on gossip like others feed on bread." "Is my having dinner at the Morgan Ranch really such a scandal?" she asked wearily. "It's not about the dinner," he replied. "It's about what it represents. Isaac keeps to himself, doesn't participate in town affairs, doesn't attend church regularly. That makes him an outsider, which makes him suspect. And now you, another outsider, have shown him kindness. It disrupts their neat categories." "I'm beginning to think Promise Creek was a mistake," Olivia admitted. "Perhaps I should have stayed in Boston after all." Dr. Williams shook his head. "Don't give them that satisfaction. You're doing good work with those children. And for what it's worth, I think your friendship with Isaac Morgan might be the best thing to happen to him in years." "We barely know each other," she protested. "Perhaps, but I've treated him and Cora a few times. That man carries a heavy burden, and he rarely lets anyone help him bear it." He patted her hand. "Just be patient. Small towns can be judgmental, but they can also be fiercely loyal once you're accepted as one of their own." His words offered some comfort, though Olivia still felt a sense of isolation as she prepared for bed that night. She thought of Isaac, living miles from town, facing these same prejudices year after year. How exhausting it must be to always be viewed with suspicion. The following days brought no further confrontations, though Olivia was acutely aware of being watched and discussed. She maintained a professional demeanor, focusing on her teaching and treating all students equally, regardless of their family connections. Cora continued to thrive in class, gradually forming friendships with several girls her age. Isaac still came promptly at 3 each day, though their exchanges became more cautious, limited to brief comments about Cora's progress. On Thursday afternoon, as Olivia was closing up the schoolhouse, she was surprised to see Rose Howard approaching on foot. "Miss Howard," she greeted the older woman, "this is unexpected." Rose looked around conspiratorially before speaking. "Call me Rose, please, and I came to town for supplies, thought I'd stop by." She lowered her voice. "Isaac wanted to make sure you were doing all right. He heard about Agatha Porter making a fuss. News travels fast," Olivia sighed, "like wildfire in dry grass." Rose shook her head. "That woman has been trying to get her hooks into Isaac since he arrived, thinks her widowed brother would make a perfect match for Isaac's money and land." "I see." This information placed Mrs. Porter's hostility in a new light. "Isaac feels terrible about causing you trouble," Rose continued. "Wanted me to tell you he understands if you need to. Distance yourself." The message stung more than Olivia would have expected. Is that what he wants? Rose studied her face carefully. No, she said finally. It's not what he wants at all, but he'd cut off his own arm before causing harm to someone he cares about. The implication that Isaac cared about her sent an unexpected warmth through Olivia's chest. Please tell Mr. Morgan that I make my own decisions about my friendships, and I don't abandon them because of gossip. Rose's weathered face broke into a wide smile. That's exactly what I hoped you'd say. She glanced around again. Now I should go before someone reports back to Agatha that we've been conspiring. As Rose turned to leave, she added over her shoulder, by the way, Cora's birthday is next Saturday. Nothing formal, just a small celebration at the ranch. She'd be tickled pink if you could come. I'd be honored, Olivia replied without hesitation. Rose nodded approvingly. 2:00. Isaac will come fetch you. With a final wave, she strode off toward the general store, leaving Olivia with a sense of cautious optimism. That weekend, Olivia found herself thinking often about the upcoming birthday celebration. She wanted to give Cora something special, something that acknowledged the child's unique spirit. After much consideration, she visited Mr. Thompson's general store on Saturday morning. "Good morning, Mrs. Blackwood," he greeted her, his wife hovering nearby, clearly curious. "What can I help you with today?" "I'm looking for a gift for a student's birthday," Olivia explained. "A journal, perhaps, with a nice cover. Let me see what we have." He disappeared into the back room, returning with several options. "These just came in on the last supply wagon from Helena." Olivia selected a leather-bound journal with blank pages, perfect for sketching plants or writing stories. "And do you have colored pencils?" "Indeed we do." He produced a set of 12 pencils in a wooden box. Quite expensive, though. "They're perfect," Olivia decided, ignoring Mrs. Thompson's poorly disguised interest. As Mr. Thompson wrapped her purchases, his wife couldn't contain herself any longer. "A special gift for a special student, anyone we know. It's for Cora Morgan," Olivia replied calmly. "She's shown a remarkable talent for observing and documenting nature. I thought she might enjoy having proper materials." Mrs. Thompson's eyebrows rose. "I see. How thoughtful of you, Mrs. Blackwood." Olivia paid for her purchases and left, refusing to be baited into further conversation. Let them talk if they wished. She was beginning to realize that in Promise Creek they would talk regardless of what she did or didn't do. The next few days passed without incident. Olivia threw herself into her teaching, introducing new literature to the older students and organizing a nature collection project for the younger ones. If she sometimes caught herself watching the clock as 3:00 approached, anticipating Isaac's arrival, she chose not to examine that feeling too closely. Friday afternoon brought unexpected excitement when Charlie Wilkins burst into the classroom during lunch, his face flushed with excitement. "Mrs. Blackwood, there's a circus coming to Promise Creek." He thrust a brightly colored handbill toward her. "Look. They've got acrobats and trained horses and even a lion." The other children crowded around, chattering excitedly. Olivia examined the flyer, which announced Professor Marlowe's magnificent menagerie and circus spectacular would be performing in Promise Creek the following Tuesday. "It says they need a large field for their tents," Charlie continued. "Mayor Collins is letting them use the meadow by the creek. Everyone's going." The children's excitement was contagious, and Olivia found herself caught up in their enthusiasm. A circus would be a wonderful experience for them, many of whom had never traveled beyond the immediate area. "Perhaps we could make this an educational opportunity," she suggested. "We could study the different animals, learn about their natural habitats." This idea was met with cheers from the children, though Olivia suspected they were more interested in the spectacle than the educational aspects. Still, she made a mental note to incorporate the circus into next week's lessons. When Isaac arrived that afternoon, Cora immediately bombarded him with news of the circus. "Can we go, Uncle Isaac, please? Charlie says they have horses that can count and dance." Isaac looked bemused by her enthusiasm. "We'll see, little one. Got to check if we can spare the time away from the ranch." "It's only for one day," Cora pleaded, "and it's educational. Mrs. Blackwood said so." Isaac glanced at Olivia, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "Is that so?" Well, she admitted, I may have suggested we could incorporate it into our natural science studies. Very educational, he agreed solemnly, though his eyes betrayed his humor. Guess we'll have to attend then for educational purposes, Cora whooped with joy, hugging him impulsively. You're the best uncle ever. As they prepared to leave, Isaac lingered a moment. Rose mentioned she invited you for Cora's birthday tomorrow. Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Good. He seemed about to say more, then simply nodded. Until tomorrow, then. That night, Olivia wrapped Cora's gifts carefully, adding a note expressing how proud she was of the girl's progress. As she tied the ribbon, she reflected on how quickly Cora had come to mean so much to her. In just a few months, the quiet, reserved child had blossomed into an eager, curious student with a gift for observation and a kind heart. And Isaac. Olivia wasn't ready to examine too closely her feelings about him. There was something compelling about his quiet strength, his devotion to Cora, the rare moments when his reserve softened into genuine warmth. But she had come to Promise Creek to rebuild her life, not to complicate it with emotions she wasn't sure she was ready to feel again. Still, as she drifted off to sleep, it was the thought of seeing the Morgan Ranch again and its owner that brought a smile to her face. Saturday dawned bright and clear, a perfect day for a birthday celebration. Olivia dressed in a light green dress that she hadn't worn since arriving in Promise Creek, taking extra care with her hair and even adding a touch of rose water to her wrists. My, don't you look pretty, Martha commented as Olivia came downstairs. Special occasion. One of my students is having a birthday, Olivia replied, trying to sound casual. Martha's knowing expression suggested she wasn't fooled for a moment. Well, have a lovely time, and remember what I said about being back by 9. It's a child's birthday party, Martha, Olivia reminded her, feeling her cheeks warm. I doubt it will run that late. At precisely 2 o'clock, the now familiar sound of wagon wheels announced Isaac's arrival. Olivia gathered Cora's gifts and headed outside where Isaac waited with the wagon. He had clearly made an effort with his appearance as well, wearing a clean shirt and his least worn pair of denims. His hair was neatly combed, and he had trimmed his stubble to a neat shadow along his jaw. Mrs. Blackwood, he greeted her, helping her into the wagon. Thank you for coming. I wouldn't miss it, she replied sincerely. The journey to the ranch seemed shorter this time, filled with comfortable conversation about the school, the upcoming circus, and Cora's excitement about turning 10. She's been up since dawn, Isaac reported. Helping Rose bake her cake and deciding exactly where everyone should sit. Everyone? I thought it was just a small gathering. It is, you, me, Rose, and Dr. Williams, who's been invited to dinner afterward. He glanced at her. I hope you can stay as well. I'd like that, she said, ignoring the flutter in her stomach. At the ranch, they found the house decorated with paper streamers and wildflowers. Cora, wearing a pretty blue dress that Olivia hadn't seen before, burst out of the door as soon as the wagon approached. You came. She exclaimed as if she had doubted it until this moment. Of course I did, Olivia smiled, climbing down with Isaac's assistance. Happy birthday, Cora. The celebration was simple but joyful. Rose had prepared lemonade and cookies, and Cora proudly showed Olivia the new saddle Isaac had given her for her pony. Dr. Williams arrived shortly after, bringing a book about plants that made Cora's eyes light up. When Olivia presented her gifts, Cora unwrapped them with reverent care, gasping when she saw the journal and colored pencils. These are for me, really. She ran her fingers over the leather cover in wonder. I thought you might like to draw the plants you discover, like your father did, Olivia explained. Cora threw her arms around Olivia's waist. Thank you. It's perfect. Over Cora's head, Olivia's eyes met Isaac's. The warmth and gratitude in his gaze made her heart skip a beat. In that moment, she knew she was exactly where she wanted to be, town gossip be damned. The afternoon passed pleasantly with games in the yard and a treasure hunt Isaac had prepared, leading Cora to small gifts hidden around the property. By the time they gathered for cake, a beautiful creation with 10 candles burning brightly, Olivia felt more relaxed and happy than she had in years. After cake and the promise of dinner later, Cora insisted on showing Dr. Williams her collection of pressed flowers, leaving the adults on the porch with coffee. "That child hasn't stopped smiling all day," Rose observed. "Does my heart good to see it." "She deserves happiness," Isaac said quietly, "after everything she's been through." "As do you," Rose replied pointedly. "You're allowed to find joy again too, you know." Isaac's eyes flickered briefly to Olivia, then away. "Got all I need right here," Rose snorted. Stubborn as ever, she stood, gathering empty plates. "I'm going to check on dinner. You two enjoy the sunshine." After she left, a comfortable silence settled between Olivia and Isaac. The late afternoon light cast a golden glow over the ranch, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of wildflowers and sage. "Thank you for the journal," Isaac said finally. "Cora will treasure it." "I'm glad she liked it." "She has a genuine talent for observation, like her father," he smiled slightly. "My brother could spot a rare plant from 50 yards. Used to drive our father crazy, stopping the wagon every few miles to examine some weed. You were close." Olivia asked, sensing a rare opportunity to learn more about him. "As boys, yes, grew apart some as adults." A shadow crossed his face. "My fault mostly. I was different after the war, less patient with his academic interests." "You fought in the war." This was something she hadn't known. He nodded. "Union cavalry. 2 years before taking a Confederate bullet at Gettysburg." His hand unconsciously moved to his left side. "Not much for talking about it." "I understand." And she did. Some wounds were too deep for casual conversation. They lapsed into silence again, but it wasn't uncomfortable. There was something peaceful about sitting together, watching the sun begin its descent toward the mountains. "I should check on Cora," Isaac said eventually, though he made no move to rise. "Make sure she's not talking the doctor's ear off about every flower in her collection." "She's enjoying her birthday," Olivia smiled. "Let her chatter," he chuckled, a warm, rich sound that Olivia realized she'd rarely heard. "You're a good influence on her." "She's different since you came, more confident, more herself." "Children respond to being truly seen," Olivia said, "to having their ideas and feelings valued." "Not just children," he said quietly, his eyes meeting hers. The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken possibilities. Olivia felt herself drawn toward him, as if some invisible force were pulling them closer. The spell was broken by Cora's voice calling from inside. "Uncle Isaac, Dr. Williams wants to see the new foal." Isaac stood, clearing his throat. "Duty calls." He hesitated, then offered his hand to help her up. His touch was warm and strong, lingering perhaps a moment longer than necessary. The rest of the evening passed in a pleasant blur. Dinner was a lively affair with Dr. Williams sharing amusing stories from his medical practice, and Rose teasing Isaac about his first disastrous attempts at baking bread for Cora. Throughout it all, Olivia was acutely aware of Isaac's presence across the table, the way his eyes sought hers during conversation, the rare but transformative smile that would occasionally light his features. Something was shifting between them, a tentative connection strengthening into something more defined. As the evening drew to a close, Dr. Williams offered to drive Olivia back to town in his buggy, as he was heading that way regardless. She accepted, sensing it might be easier for everyone than prolonging goodbyes. "Thank you for including me today," she said to Cora, who was fighting to keep her eyes open despite the excitement of the day. "I had a wonderful time. Will you come back soon?" Cora asked sleepily. "If I'm invited," Olivia replied, glancing at Isaac. "Always," he said simply. As she gathered her things, Isaac followed her onto the porch while Dr. Williams prepared his buggy. "Olivia," he began, using her first name with a new familiarity that sent a pleasant shiver through her. "About the circus on Tuesday, perhaps we could attend together, you, me, and Cora, I mean." The invitation took her by surprise. "In town, where everyone would see?" "Yes," his expression was resolute. "I'm tired of worrying what people think, and if you can brave their gossip, so can I." The simple declaration touched her deeply. "I would like that very much." "Good." He smiled, that rare, transformative smile that reached his eyes and made him look years younger. "We'll meet you at the schoolhouse after classes end, Doctor." Williams called that he was ready, and Olivia reluctantly turned to go. Isaac caught her hand briefly, giving it a gentle squeeze before releasing it. "Until Tuesday," he said softly. As the buggy rolled away from the ranch, Olivia found herself already counting the hours until she would see him again. Whatever was developing between them, this fragile, unexpected connection, she was no longer willing to deny it out of fear of gossip or judgment. For the first time since James's death, she was looking forward rather than back, and the future suddenly seemed full of possibilities. Chapter 5. The circus comes to town Tuesday morning dawned with an unusual buzz of excitement in Promise Creek. Professor Marlowe's circus had arrived overnight, and colorful tents now dotted the meadow by the creek. Even before school began, Olivia could see the distraction on her students' faces as they peered out the windows, straining for glimpses of exotic animals or circus performers. "We will attend the circus this afternoon," she announced, drawing their attention back to the classroom. "But first, we have our regular lessons to complete, and I expect everyone to be on their best behavior." A chorus of agreements followed, though Olivia noticed several children still casting longing glances toward the meadow. With a smile, she decided to adapt her lessons to the occasion. "Today, we'll learn about the geography of where circus animals come from," she announced. "Lions and tigers are native to which continents?" This approach proved successful, channeling the children's excitement into learning while acknowledging the special nature of the day. By lunchtime, they had covered the habitats of various exotic animals, calculated the area needed for a circus tent, and written short essays imagining life as a circus performer. As the final hour of school approached, Olivia found herself growing increasingly distracted as well, though not because of the circus. Isaac and Cora would be meeting her soon, and the thought of walking through town with them, deliberately visible to the curious eyes of Promise Creek, made her both nervous and oddly exhilarated. When the school day finally ended, the children burst from the building with unusual energy, many racing toward home to collect their families for the circus. Olivia remained behind, straightening desks and gathering her things with deliberate calm. A knock at the open door made her turn. Isaac stood there, hat in hand, with Cora bouncing excitedly beside him. He had made an effort with his appearance again, wearing a clean shirt and his good jacket despite the warm day. "Ready for the circus, Mrs. Blackwood?" Cora asked eagerly. "Indeed I am," Olivia smiled, gathering her shawl. "And please, when we're not in school, you may call me Miss Olivia." Cora's eyes lit up. "Miss Olivia, that's even better." As they stepped outside, Olivia couldn't help but notice how natural it felt to walk alongside Isaac and Cora, feeling a sense of belonging that had eluded her since she arrived in Promise Creek. The anticipation in the air was palpable, and as they made their way toward the meadow, she realized that today's adventure would be more than just a circus. It was a step toward solidifying the unexpected connections she had begun to forge in this frontier town.